September 23, 1913, 6:14 a.m. Mojave Desert, California. Robert Morrison pushed the blade into hardpan, the Holt Model 60 bulldozer shuddering beneath him. 45 horsepower, 8 tons of cast iron and steel, a curved blade 7 feet wide that could move 30 cubic yards an hour when the ground cooperated. The ground wasn't cooperating. Morrison was 38, sunburned permanent into his neck, hands calloused from a decade working heavy equipment across the American West. Panama Canal, Denver rail yards. Now this. The Los Angeles Aqueduct, the most ambitious water project in American history. Chief Engineer William Mulholland had hired him in April with one instruction: cut the route fast, cut it clean, and stay ahead of the pipe crews. Morrison had been cutting for 6 weeks, 18 miles of grade prepared for the concrete aqueduct channel, flattening ridges, widening valleys, creating a gravity-fed path for water to flow 233 miles from Owens Valley to Los Angeles. Except Morrison had just discovered he'd been cutting the wrong valley. The realization came slowly, like dawn breaking wrong. Morrison had noticed the terrain getting rougher over the past week. More rock, steeper grades, the kind of ground that costs time and fuel. But the survey stakes were there, white-painted wood every 100 feet, exactly where the engineering drawings said they should be. Then yesterday, a water wagon driver mentioned seeing Morrison's dust trail from 5 miles north of where he should be. 5 miles north. Morrison stopped the bulldozer at midnight, walked back to camp, and spread the topographic map across his bunk by lantern light. His route marked in pencil for 6 weeks of work. The official route marked in red ink by the survey team. They weren't the same. He'd been following survey stakes for a parallel valley. Similar terrain, similar heading. But wrong. Or completely wrong. The stakes had been placed for a railroad spur line proposed 2 years earlier and abandoned. Someone had failed to remove them. Morrison had assumed they were aqueduct markers. The cost to correct it? Roughly $12 million. They would have to abandon 18 miles of prepared grade, $2.1 million of labor and fuel already spent. Bulldozer work. Blasting, grading, all wasted. Then cut the correct route from scratch, which meant starting over in harder terrain to the south, reconfiguring the entire gravity flow calculations for that section and delaying completion by at least 14 months. The concrete crews were already pouring foundations based on Morrison's grade work. That concrete would have to be demolished. The bond financing depended on a 1914 completion date. A 14-month delay would trigger penalty clauses worth $840,000. Los Angeles voters had approved this project in 1907 by a margin of just 2,400 votes. Barely. One major scandal could reverse public support, trigger investigations, end Mulholland's career, maybe kill the entire aqueduct. But Morrison hadn't told anyone yet. He spent that night walking his own route, checking every mile. The grade work was perfect, smooth, precise. Exactly what the engineering specifications required, just in the wrong location. The bulldozer had done its job flawlessly. Morrison had done his job flawlessly. The map was wrong. Or rather, Morrison had followed the wrong map. At 5 a.m., he walked into the construction superintendent's tent. Frank Chen, 51, a civil engineer who'd built bridges in San Francisco before the 1906 earthquake. Chen was drinking coffee, reviewing the day's work orders. "We're in the wrong valley," Morrison said. Chen looked up. "What?" "The route? I've been cutting the wrong valley for 6 weeks. Chen set down his cup. "Show me." Morrison spread both maps on the table. The abandoned railroad survey. The aqueduct route. 2 valleys running parallel, separated by a ridgeline barely visible from ground level. Chen studied them for 3 minutes without speaking. Then, "How far off?" 18 miles prepared, 5 miles north of correct position. "Christ, does Mulholland know?" "You're the first person I've told." Chen calculated silently, his finger tracing routes on the map. 18 miles at your burn rate. 100 gallons of fuel per mile. 75 man-days per mile. His face went pale. Over $2 million already spent. Plus the concrete being poured on my grade marks. Plus the concrete. Chen sat down. "Morrison, this could end the project." A quick word. That subscribe button below, it tells me these stories matter to you, that the effort to bring them forward reached someone. It's a small action, but it means everything. And if you want longer stories, members get exclusive 20-plus minute documentaries. If you want to see how Morrison and Chen saved the Los Angeles Aqueduct from a $12 million disaster, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories. Subscribe if you haven't already. Well, back to that September morning in 1913. Chen made a decision at 6:47 a.m. We don't report this to Mulholland yet. We fix it first, report it after. Fix it how? We can't move 18 miles of grade work. No, but we can modify the route to use your grade work. The aqueduct doesn't have to follow the original survey line exactly. It just has to maintain gravity flow and hit the elevation checkpoints. Chen pulled out a fresh map and started calculating. The aqueduct needed to drop at a consistent grade, 2 feet per mile, to maintain water flow. Morrison's valley ran parallel to the planned valley. If they could connect the two with a diagonal cut through the ridge, they might salvage most of Morrison's work. Here, Chen pointed, mile marker 43. Your valley is only 800 feet from the planned route. We cut through this ridge at an angle, 22-degree slope. Your bulldozer can handle that. That's solid granite. You've got dynamite. Morrison looked at the map. The diagonal cut would be brutal, granite and hardpan, maybe 2 weeks of blasting and bulldozing, but it would connect his valley to the correct route downstream. Everything he'd already cut could be used. What about upstream? The first 12 miles I cut are heading the wrong direction entirely. We abandoned those, cut the correct route. It's only 12 miles. You can do 12 miles in 3 weeks. Morrison calculated 3 weeks to cut the correct upstream section. 2 weeks to blast through the ridge and connect the valleys. 5 weeks total versus 14 months to start completely over. It'll work, Chen said, but you need to start now, and nobody can know the original route was wrong. As far as anyone asks, we're just making an engineering adjustment to optimize the grade. Morrison fired up the bulldozer at 7:20 a.m. The Holt Model 60 belched black smoke, treads biting into desert hardpan. He drove it 12 miles south to where the correct route actually started, following Chen's revised map. For 3 weeks, Morrison cut grade 16 hours a day. The bulldozer ran so hot the engine oil broke down every 48 hours. He worked through 2 dust storms that reduced visibility to 0, navigating by compass bearing alone. The blade wore down twice. He replaced it both times by lantern light, refusing to lose daylight hours. By October 14th, the upstream section was complete. 12 miles of perfect grade work. Then came the ridge. The granite cut took 11 days of blasting. Powder crews would drill holes at dawn. Morrison would evacuate the bulldozer. The blast would go off, fracturing rock. Morrison would push the debris, creating a path. Then the cycle repeated. Drill, blast, push, over and over. The bulldozer's blade cracked on day 7. Morrison welded it at midnight, the repair glowing orange in darkness. On day 9, a boulder weighing 4 tons rolled onto the blade. Morrison chained it, dragged it with the bulldozer, working in reverse, then pushed it off a cliff. On October 25th, the cut connected. Morrison's valley joined the planned route with a smooth 22-degree transition. Water would flow through it perfectly. Total cost of the fix, $340,000. Total cost if they'd abandoned everything and started over, $12 million. Morrison never told anyone outside Chen about the original error. The official construction reports described the ridge cut as an engineering optimization to improve flow characteristics. No mention of wrong valleys, no mention of abandoned railroad stakes, no mention of 18 miles cut in the wrong location. The aqueduct was completed on November 5, 1913, when William Mulholland stood before 40,000 people at the San Fernando Cascades and said, "There it is, take it." Water flowed. Los Angeles had its supply. The project came in on time and under budget. Morrison received a $500 bonus for exceptional grade work. Chen received a commendation for innovative engineering solutions. Mulholland never knew how close the project came to financial catastrophe. Morrison worked the bulldozer until December, then moved to San Francisco for bridge reconstruction work. The Holt Model 60 stayed on the aqueduct, used for maintenance and repairs until 1947, when it was finally scrapped. The serial number, 60-A-1847, appears in maintenance logs for 34 years. The diagonal ridge cut still exists. Modern engineers who inspect the aqueduct sometimes wonder why there's a 22-degree granite cut in that location. The official explanation, Mulholland's innovative design to optimize gravity flow. By 1920, Los Angeles had grown from 319,000 people to 577,000. The aqueduct made that possible. Without it, growth would have stopped at 500,000. By 1930, 1.2 million people. By 1950, nearly 2 million. Out of today, 4 million in the city proper, 10 million in the greater metro area, all dependent on water flowing through a route that was almost cut in the wrong valley. The Owens Valley, meanwhile, never recovered. The orchards died, the ranches failed, the small towns survived but never thrived. The valley's population peaked around 7,500 in 1920, then declined. Today, it's roughly the same. Some historians argue the aqueduct was theft disguised as progress. Others call it infrastructure that built California. Both are probably right. What's certain is this. In September 1913, a bulldozer operator named Robert Morrison spent 6 weeks cutting the wrong valley, then fixed it in 5 weeks without anyone knowing. He did it with a 45-horsepower bulldozer, a welding torch, and enough dynamite to blast through granite. That's how infrastructure actually gets built. Not through perfect planning, but through operators who fix mistakes before they become disasters. Morrison died in 1956 in Oakland, California. His obituary mentioned work on the Los Angeles Aqueduct, the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, and Grand Coulee Dam. No mention of the wrong valley. No mention of the 18 miles. No mention of September 1913. No one at his funeral knew he'd once saved a city's water supply. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. 0+ minute documentaries.